Welcome back to Cinema Recaps. Today I'll be introducing you to a 2010 action, sci-fi, and thriller movie titled Repo Man. Spoiler alert, be aware and proceed with caution. By 2025, technology has advanced to remarkable levels. Scientists have perfected biomechanical organs known as artiforgs. These are sold at very high prices and offered on credit by a company called Union. Union hires repo men to track down and repossess these organs whenever a client defaults on payment. The repossessions often result in the client's death. Remy is one of these repo men, recognizable by the tattoo on his neck. He's the best at his job. Tonight, he's waiting for a target to come home. When the target arrives, Remy doesn't hesitate to interrupt the man's date with a woman. He introduces himself as being from Union before knocking the target out with a special taser. The woman tries to stop him by hitting him with her bag, but Remy simply knocks her unconscious. Afterward, Remy puts on protective overalls to keep his uniform clean and puts on headphones to listen to music. He takes out his tools and begins operating on the man to retrieve the artiforg. He cleans it and places it in a special sealed bag. The next morning, Remy starts his day at home with his wife, Carol, and his son, Peter. After dropping Peter off at school, he goes around the city, repossessing artiforgs and leaving clients to die. Then he heads to the Union headquarters and encounters an employee in a giant bunny suit. He stops to get a coffee. All the potential clients waiting can see him. He watches his boss, Frank Mercer, help a salesman persuade a family to sign the papers. Then Remy heads to the repo men's break room. There he meets Raymond Pearl, who is complaining about only getting small jobs. Pearl reminds Remy that he's on probation for brutally attacking a woman on the subway. Suddenly, Frank appears and tells Remy not to linger around the main areas because he'll scare the clients. Then he leads him to another room to scan the artiforgs. Remy scans the artiforgs he collected that day as Jake Freewald. Remy's best friend joins them. Jake used to bully Remy at school, but they later served in the military together. After the war, they took jobs at Union because it matched their skill set. The recruiter told them they were protecting the healthcare system, though they didn't really care. They just enjoyed the missions. After some joking around and being called children by Frank, Jake invites Remy for drinks. Remy agrees, but stops by Carol's workplace first to let her know. Carol scolds him for not asking to transfer to the sales department, and they argue. In the car, Jake tells Remy he thinks Carol is trying to control him and that they'll always be repo men. Remy understands his wife's concerns. At a red light, they use their special scanner to scan a passerby and discover he has an artiforg. They tease him, reminding him of the consequences of missing payments, then laugh as he runs away. They head to the bar, have a few beers, and discuss the possibility of having to repossess from someone they know. Remy takes a special interest in Beth, the singer at the bar. A few hours later, he returns home, plays T-Bone's music, and approaches his wife with romantic intentions, but Carol turns him down. Instead, Remy goes upstairs to visit his son and talk about his day at school. A few days later, Remy hosts a backyard barbecue, and Jake asks him for a favor. Jake has a client to repossess and wants to handle it right there. Initially, Remy dislikes the idea, but Jake convinces him by offering to split the double commission. A taxi pulls up in front of the house, and Jake cuts open the passenger's stomach right there on the street, with Carol and Peter witnessing it. When they go inside, Carol is furious with Remy for allowing this to happen. She demands that he choose between his job and his family before leaving with their son. Remy tells Jake that he'll need to talk to Frank about this. That night, Remy and Jake go on patrol and discuss the M5 neural net, a new technology that connects brain-damaged individuals to an eternal dream state. Their conversation is interrupted when Jake's scanner detects a nest, a refuge for hundreds of delinquent clients trying to flee the country. After gathering all the weapons from the car trunk, they go inside and start pursuing everyone. Initially, they take people down easily, but soon they begin to face resistance. Jake deals with two clients by either punching them directly or using a stun baton. Remy also gets caught up in a hand-to-hand fight, stabbing all his opponents before finding Jake, who's being overpowered by a larger man. Remy takes down the man and argues with Jake, who insists he didn't need help. The two return to Frank's office a few hours later, bringing all the spoils, including 2 signal jammers used to evade the repo men's scanners. After storing them away, Frank praises them and offers them a promotion to full-time raid captains, but Remy declines. As he prepares to request a transfer to the sales department, Jake interjects, telling Frank they're satisfied with their current jobs. After finishing the job, Jake reminds Remy that rules and enforcing them are important. Remy drops Jake off at home and heads out to handle what he wants to be his last repo job. The client is Jimmy T-Bone, a musician Remy has always admired. He finds T-Bone at home, working on music and using some red powder. When Remy mentions he's a fan, T-Bone asks him to help finish the song before repossession. Remy agrees, and after they finish, he also promises to take the track to the record company. Remy asks T-Bone to lie down on the floor so he can repossess his heart first. He needs to stop it using his DFIB device, but when he places the device on T-Bone's chest, it malfunctions, and Remy gets electrocuted. He passes out for the third time in his life. He wakes up a few days later in a hospital bed with Jake and Frank in the room. Carol had also been there but left before Remy could see her. They inform him that the incident was caused by a faulty shock unit. Then they deliver the most important news. Remy's heart has been replaced with an artificial organ. Frank mocks him with a sales pitch. Remy tells them he doesn't want the artificial heart and gets out of bed, leaving the room. As he tries to disconnect the equipment in the hallway, blood spills everywhere. He manages only a few steps before collapsing to the floor. Remy realizes he has no other choice but to accept the artificial heart. When he's discharged from the hospital, the first thing he does is go home. But he can't get inside because Carol has changed the locks. Carol comes to the door when he rings the bell and hands him a suitcase, saying he chose his job over his family when he took that last assignment. Remy moves in with Jake. Jake welcomes him with drinks and suggests they go out with some girls, but Remy just wants to rest. A few days later, he returns to work, where his coworkers throw a small welcome back party with a dancer. Afterward, he takes on another assignment, thinking he's ready. He breaks into the client's house and chokes them when they try to defend themselves. This leaves him more exhausted than usual, with an elevated heart rate. When it's time to extract the artificial organ, his hands tremble, and he can't do it. He heads to a bar with his coworkers a few hours later, pretending he completed the job. But when he hears Jake telling stories, he can't stop thinking about the client's family. Distressed, he leaves the bar early. The next day, he waits outside Carol and Peter's house, as it's the only way to see his son. After hugging him, he tries to talk to Carol, but she only hands him an envelope with a notice that he's overdue on his heart payments. Later, when Jake hears about this, he scolds Remy for lying, but acknowledges that Remy needs a break. Jake says they can work together in the future when Remy feels better. Remy tries working in sales, but it doesn't go well, as he's developed empathy for clients and can't lie to them. His brutal honesty doesn't help with sales. He tries earning extra money by betting on horse races, but he's not good at that either. When the final notice arrives in the mail, Jake takes Remy to a hideout filled with clients in debt, and even chases a few people to help him. However, Remy still can't complete the job. Angry, Jake leaves after telling Remy not to come back until he's out of his slump and has enough organs to pay off his debt. Remy still can't bring himself to do it, so when the client wakes up, he knocks him out again. He wakes up later to the sound of the song he heard at the bar the other day. He follows the music and finds Beth looking very weak. He decides to take her to a motel and care for her as she goes through withdrawal. When he uses his scanner on her, he discovers Beth has multiple artificial organs, all of which need to be repossessed. When Beth wakes up, she punches him for helping her. When she says it's over for both of them, he replies that maybe it isn't. Remy breaks into Union's building and tries to clear both his and Beth's accounts, but he only manages to clear one of her many organs before Jake catches him. Jake is angry, but lets him go when he sees him return the taser. Remy breaks into his old house to say goodbye to Peter before returning to the motel and telling Beth they need to leave. They drive to an abandoned area outside the city, and after burning the car, they hide in an empty old building. Meanwhile, at Union, Frank tries to assign Remy's case to Jake, but he refuses, and so do the other repo men. Day by day, Remy and Beth build a small home in the old building by salvaging discarded items. One night, after she shares all the details about her artificial organs, they kiss and make love. Beth gives Remy a typewriter she found in the trash. Remy starts using it to write his memoir. Many days later, Beth hears something outside with her artificial ear, but Remy doesn't hear anything. So she connects the headphones to her head to let him hear the source of the noise. Soon after, Raymond shows up, entering the building. He has accepted the job of hunting down Remy. The couple makes a plan to avoid being caught. They move their things into another room with a large hole in the middle of the floor and cover it with a bed sheet. Beth hides behind the door while Remy pretends to be writing. When Raymond steps in, he expresses disappointment that Remy is so easy to capture. After drawing his weapon, he steps further in and falls into the hole. However, the floor is unstable, so when Beth approaches to check, she also falls, damaging her artificial knee. Seeing an opportunity, Raymond grabs his gun to stun her, so Remy improvises and kills him by dropping the typewriter on his head. After stealing Raymond's car, Remy drives Beth back to the city to gather supplies. But Beth shows him that she knows how to fix her own knee using some tools she found nearby. When they reach Union's parking lot, Remy spots a guy in a long costume on a break and steals it to sneak inside undetected. He heads to Frank's office, punches him a few times before threatening him with the taser he took from Raymond. He also hands Frank a piece of Raymond's tattooed skin, saying he'll do the same to anyone who tries to capture him. Now accounts can only be erased by bringing the organs to Union's central office. Frank tries to make him an offer, but Remy knocks him out and steals the signal jammer before returning to Beth and telling her they're leaving the country. When Frank wakes up, Jake is given the order to capture Remy at the airport. Remy and Beth try to pass security checks using the jammer device, but they're still detained when another passenger notices Beth's leg bleeding. Remy throws the jammer into the trash on their way out. As a guard prepares to bandage Beth, 2 other repo men appear and scan Remy, this time receiving an alert. The couple reacts quickly, engaging in a brawl with the guards, defending themselves with their hands and nearby objects, like scissors that Beth uses to stab 2 officers. After taking down everyone, they exit the office and encounter Jake, who can't do anything as he's on the other side of the security glass. Remy lifts Beth and carries her out of the building. Back in the car, the couple drives to an old building in the slums, where they meet Asbury, a black market organ dealer Beth has used before. After sharing some red powder with Beth and debating with Remy about professional ethics, Asbury informs them he can't help Beth because he no longer deals with joints. So they have to go see Alva. Upon arrival for the procedure, they find 2 offices, one run by a young girl who handles anesthesia, and the other by a young boy who performs the surgery. Remy worries about Alva's age and skills, but the boy proves to be very competent. After Beth wakes up a few hours later, they return to Asbury's place only to find he's been repoed. Jake shows up and tries to persuade Remy to return, but Remy refuses, saying he hasn't been the same since the accident. Jake then admits the accident wasn't an accident. He had rigged the shock unit to temporarily stop Remy's heart to prevent him from transferring to sales. The 2 men start fighting hand to hand. Initially, they seem evenly matched, but eventually Jake overpowers Remy, throwing him through a wall. Jake continues tossing Remy around until he falls onto a metal bridge. Remy laughs and pulls out a knife, stabbing Jake in the leg before Jake retaliates, knocking him out. After a series of memories flash before his eyes, Remy is awakened by Beth, who has tased Jake and tells him they need to run immediately as the repo team has arrived. They run through the building as hundreds of dead bodies begin to be shot at. When they get trapped at a dead end, Rhodesia, the leader of an underground community, rescues them and pulls them into a hidden room. Seeing Remy's tattoo, she threatens to shoot him, but he's allowed to stay after showing her the scar on his chest. Nightmares keep Remy from sleeping, so he goes outside to inspect the damage, seeing bodies throughout the building, including Elvis. The next day, he tells Beth there's no escape for anyone, no matter where they hide. He decides to end it all by going to headquarters and wiping the entire system. A few hours later, they encounter Carol and Peter on the train, sparking an argument with Carol. Peter takes his father's taser and knocks out his mother before Remy hands him the manuscript, telling him to find him in Puna del Este when he grows up. Remy and Beth wait for Frank in his car, sedating him before taking the vehicle and using it to return to Union's headquarters. Remy chases down 2 guards and shoots a third, then uses Frank's eye to open the door and get inside. After shooting the security camera, he and Beth quickly enter, avoiding capture and stumble upon a lab full of scientists working on artificial organs. Most of them ignore the couple, but one man stands up and exits through a door. Remy tries to speak to him, but guards arrive, firing wildly and killing several scientists in the process. Remy and Beth escape through the same door the man used and find a hallway leading to Union's database room, guarded by security and repo men. A fierce battle breaks out. Beth defends herself with a fire axe taken from the wall, while Remy shoots the guards, then drops his gun to wield a knife in close combat with the repo men. He kills most of them easily, but when he's surrounded on the floor, he asks Beth for the hacksaw and uses it to finish off the remaining men. They use Beth's prosthetic eye to open the door to the database room, closing it just in time before Frank and Jake arrive. They discover that the server's interface is merely an organ scanner, so the only option is to cut themselves open and scan their artificial organs. After using a bit of the red powder, they begin the process with Remy's heart, stitching the wound afterward. Next, they scan each of Beth's prosthetics. When Jake and Frank enter the room using a part from a dead repo man, Remy is scanning Beth's final organ. Frank orders Jake to kill them, but when Remy says Beth is worth more than any job he's ever done, Jake decides to help. He kills Frank with a knife and gives Remy a syringe to wake Beth. When the system requests the scanned organs to be placed on the computer tray, Jake puts in 2 grenades, destroying the entire database and freeing all clients. Sometime later, Remy, Beth, and Jake are in Punta del Este, enjoying the beach while listening to T-Bone's final song. Jake has removed his tattoo, and Remy's memoir has been published by Peter under the title The Repossession Mambo. As Jake teases Remy about the book, he suddenly disappears, and the ocean waves flicker like digital static before returning to normal. At this point, it's revealed that Remy is in a coma and never woke up from Jake's hit on the metal bridge at Asbury's place. Jake used artificial organs from that raid to pay for Remy's heart and connect him to the neural network. Jake said his goodbye before taking care of Beth and finding Remy's manuscript in his bag. Now, Remy will be happy forever in his dream. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this. Thank you for watching.